Welcome everyone to the LCS postgame lobby after opening day of week 4. I'm Shox here with Ender Deficio and Senkux from Misfits Gaming. Congratulations, Senkux. All in all, this was our match of the weekend for a reason. You guys were both undefeated. You and G2, it is a huge victory. Does it also feel that way, or was it just business as usual?
I mean, it kind of felt like business because we didn't want to make it a big deal, to be honest. We mainly focus on the long plan, like the Misfits one-year plan last year. We focus on playoffs and more important stuff, but obviously it's still nice to get the win.
This is where, with a little more PR training, Senkux will nail this answer.
Yeah, woohoo!
And he will say, this
so
meant
nice.
everything. I didn't sleep all week. I practiced every day. I watched all the VODs. I just wanted to beat G2, and he did.
Yeah, you did. You mentioned the plan. Is there some other new plan in the works?
I mean, I don't know. It's just keep improving. New plan every week.
Well, fantastic.
Take
you guys...
over Europe is what he means.
Okay. Apparently you have someone who's whispering in your ear what you are supposed to answer.
Right here.
Yeah. Senkux was the best team in EU, not even at Rift Rivals?
I don't think they were. I think they were just sitting in EU having a break for a week and then coming back and beating the best team at Rift Rivals.
Yeah, Vitality looked pretty good.
Well, you guys were saying that you did take a break, which is always very important because the season does get a bit, it is very long. You're practicing all the time. But I assume you weren't just not playing at all. I assume you were also still practicing or thinking of tactics, or how did that go?
I mean, I was still like practicing for myself, but yeah, I mean, it was just mainly to get like a break. So in the long run, we wouldn't get like burned out. That was the main thing about it.
I have a question.
Sure.
What happened to Spring Split, Senkux?
It happens every year, doesn't it? It happened last year as well.
You're like the Summer Split champ, basically.
Yeah, it's like the question on your foyer, you know? You want to be shit in one season and good in the other one.
I guess that one works, but like, what is it you have to change to go from what happens in spring where things are not working for you? Is it a meta change? Is it just more individual practice? Like,
I mean, to be serious, I think last split, the meta was maybe not the best for me, and I think it was really good for a lot of other people. And I think at the same time, I had some struggles, especially on stage, adapting to like new teammates. Where if we take then all the way back to Splice in 2017, I think the first split was just meta change for the good Splice, where we always played scaling mid. So we just, abandoned mid in the early game, basically, played around Wonder. That's what happened most of the games. And that really worked for us in that meta, but that kind of changed. So that's why we had to like adapt, and we kind of got it in summer. So I think most of the times it's just the adaptation.
Well, adaptation, the whole team seems to be doing really, really well with the meta as it is. Roaming supports and supports that take the initiative, that is straight up mikyx is playstyle, right? And this time at Rakan, on Rakan rather, he was really, really good. He even made the game-winning engage, I would say, at the end with the flank ender. Overall, the coordination of Misfits just looks very, very impressive.
It looks really good, and I think that in this game specifically, it was mikyx on that Rakan finding all those engagements, but over the course of the split, it really has been a team-wide effort where you have players in literally every single role stepping up, and no team has looked like they've even come close to beating it outside of G2, and even then they couldn't do it.
And I want to be careful with that because I do think G2 played a pretty good game, but their composition was very hard to execute. And sometimes you want to say a bit of a cocky draft if you're up versus a very good opponent, but in this case, when it's so hard to engage, maybe I have a couple of question marks with the draft from G2. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think the idea behind the draft was good. I don't think necessarily you always need engage to play the game. I just think when you're a good team like G2 actually are, then I think you can play it this way. And I also think they were playing it pretty well. I think it's just one misstep that kind of lost it for them, to be honest. And sure, sometimes it's easy to play other composition. Maybe the composition isn't the easiest to play, but they still played it pretty well, I would say, for most of the game.
And that's also good for them because they've been playing so much funnel, and we were even like, when are you going to stop playing funnel? So they come here and they just pick something which they know is harder to execute because probably they want to also really put themselves to the test as to what they can do.
I mean, that's what you have the regular season for. If you're already sitting at the top of the standings, you're not really too concerned about not making playoffs. The goal now for the top teams is lock in number 1 and 2, so you, of course, get the bye straight for semifinal. Means so much more in the summer split when it's all about grabbing as many points as possible to at least guarantee yourself a gauntlet spot if you can't actually win the entire split, or maybe the second seed going to Worlds. So that's obviously going to be the key thing. I think that's the draft for me. The one thing it showed me was just a trend that I kind of figured out was going to be there, but I wasn't 100% sure, and that was regarding Janen's picks. When the Heimerdinger got banned, I was like, hey, I think we've already seen his Rakan. I think Swain here could be a good choice for him, something a lot of bot laners would pick to try and then win the bottom lane after level 6. But he prefers the more pokey style.
We banned Swain as well.
Swain was not banned. You banned 2 supports.
We banned Swain second phase.
Obviously, first phase here.
Okay, yeah, sure.
In this case.
obviously. Why?
And officio.
I said it in the first
I mean, they don't
phase.
take 6 until the next phase.
No,
so
but they could have grabbed it at the time can.
Yeah, that's
they
true. Yeah, sure.
Most teams grab Swain if he's open in the first phase. It is not often he's left open to the second one. But the fact he didn't want to play it tells me that he still prefers, which is not a surprise, the more push and poke heavy style and not the all-in from the bot lane.
I think it's also important to mention it's not only the push-poke heavy style, it's more like the self-sufficient bot lane kind of style. Like, they don't really play around bot lane ever, I think, and like that's where the picks usually come in favor for them.
We ask with this meta a lot the question of for any team, how will they deal with changes? And the consensus is kind of that Misfits is the best equipped in either scenario. You play standard really well, you're not afraid to experiment, and it seems that you guys would stand the test of time the best in the summer split. Ender, what do you think about that? And what do you feel about G2's ability to adapt if maybe, again, bot lane does become standard AD carry again and does become all around that again? Right,
I think that becomes a little bit more of a concern for G2. If you look back at last split, Hjarnu were criticized pretty heavily for their standard marksman play. I don't want to count them out because I think they have shown a lot of improvements, right? Even though they are playing a very different style of champions, there have been, marked growths that have made them, look a lot better than they did in that spring split.
And as long as Misfits have actually improved from spring split in terms of mid game, they should be fine in a slower meta as well. Like, Hansama is a great AD carry you can always rely on, and he showed that last split. It was just more the drafting and putting a little bit on a timer, some misplays in mid game, and then things fell apart. The biggest problem, though, for G2 and Misfits, if the meta went back to summer split, is the fact that Reckless is back on Fnatic then. And you actually have a much better Fnatic. Because I think we're seeing that this Fnatic team is the one who's actually been hurt the most by the meta changes because they lost the 2-time MVP player because of it, or at least according to them, they can't play him right now. If he returns, you get a much better Fnatic against a much better Misfits, and that's going to be a battle that could be absolutely insane. Right now, I think Misfits beats Fnatic every time.
But even last split, we 2-0'd.
You did 2-0 them.
Wait. Not even in early. It was late game. Both games.
I didn't say you would lose to Fnatic. I said it would be a lot better.
Yeah, but I think, like, to your point with like who it hurt the most, I think Splice kind of like got really hurt as well, because I think they played really well around Cobber and they needed all these Arden supports to win, but it doesn't really function for them right now. Today was better, and at Rift Rivals against Team Liquid, at least
that's all they needed, baby.
It shows some improvement. Maybe it's the uprising of Splice now.
It is.
Maybe it is. Time will have to tell how the meta changes, because we don't exactly know what is up on stake and how the teams adapt to it. I would like to move on to one of my favorite parts of the day, which is shocks and statements. You tell me if you agree or not, or what you think, or what you want to talk about. The first up is nobody but G2, Misfits, and Fnatic are going to Worlds this year.
That's a fair statement, Shocks. I mean,
okay, let's pack it up. Next one.
I think that's a fair statement. There is room. I think G2 and Misfits for me right now are pretty locked in at the top.
Well, let me paint the picture. Misfits has 0 championship points. Misfits didn't even make it to playoffs. Splice has points. Vitality has a lot of points because they played that 3rd place match. So we do have to count into this that Misfits is starting from 0, really, right?
But we did that. Well, I did that, and Miggy did that in 2016.
That is true on Splice.
But here's the thing, like, it might not even be Splice or Misfits or something actually, sorry, not Splice, Misfits or Fnatic or something deciding this, because if Splice gets top 4, like if they go to semifinal, even if they got 3-0 crushed with the points already from Spring, that might be enough to give them that 2nd seed. And then one of these 3 teams will not make it, even though they might be the better ones.
And playing the gauntlet versus each other.
But here, if Misfits win the split, then G2, assuming they would be 2nd place, would then have the highest points.
And it's the same for Fnatic.
And the same for Fnatic, obviously, because developers. I think this is their, if you were going to put money on anything, those are the 3 teams right now. But the thing is, so many things can still change. And
it's really early.
There are so many weeks to go. We don't know what the meta is going to be like. And we don't know if a team is going to slow down. Vitality was 7-0 last split, like Misfits right now. And then Vitality lost 5 games in a row. So I don't think it's guaranteed. I actually think we're going to have an absolutely insane playoffs, especially if Splice are actually getting better now. So we have like 5, maybe 6 good teams going into it. And then in the best of 5, I don't know.
I think we have playoffs and then the regional qualifier after, which is always the... I mean, not to discredit anything else, but it's always so hype because you have all these teams that are so close together and play best of 5s. Some of them have to play 3 best of 5s in a row to make it against the top team, so I can't wait for that. So there is no possibility for an insane upset. First up, Vitality is going to be really angry with this consensus because they could get pretty close.
I mean, we just said it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's the safest
statement. Instantly jumped on it.
Come on. It's
Flag.
the safest statement you can make
The regular
at
season
the
now,
moment.
go to playoffs.
All right.
That's what I said.
Well, we touched on Reckless before, and the next statement is we won't see Reckless anymore this season for Fnatic. This is hypothetical, obviously.
I think we will. If the changes I've seen from him playing solo queue is actually quite good, not even only on marksman, but actually also on these mages. I think we could see him, but obviously Bibo has already more practice in bots, so I mean, it's obviously really hard to say, but I think if Reckless learns the mages and they kind of try to adapt to AD carries as well, they have like more adaptation in the draft in general.
But do they put him in if the meta stays the same, even if he becomes really good on, or in his practice or in a solo queue on mages and on the other champions that are going now? Or do you keep in the guys that have literally played it for their whole league careers because they're top laners, so they've played just about anything? What do you do?
A lot of that is going to come down to how Whip and Souls are performing.
Like today was not that good.
Fnatic will not be happy about today, that's for sure. They've had a lot of good games before, and so I don't think people should overreact and instantly call for them to get benched. But I think Reckless eventually will be good enough to play some of the mages. I just predict that the meta, over the next couple of patches, I think there will keep coming small buffs to AD carries. I definitely think we're going to see crit AD carries at some point. At least some of them be viable. Maybe they won't be the greatest of all time, but
their items are sleeper OP now. So.
Some of them will get there eventually.
Also, like, we've seen Marksman still can be played. I think Reckless very well could come back into the roster, play Marksman, and be super successful. I just, like, there's not a willingness there, it doesn't feel
It just brings more adaptation, because I don't see people playing ADs right now. So if he learns mages, it's just more adaptation in the draft, more they can do.
Yeah. So you don't give away instantly, oh, we're going to pick an AD carry because Reckless is in the lineup.
Yeah.
They need that flexibility. I think, though, if Fnatic are going to win the EU LCS, they need Reckless back.
Would you say that the best to their abilities performance of Bwipo and Soaz, where is that compared to Fnatic with Reckless at the best of his abilities?
Depending on the meta.
No, yeah, depending on the meta. Let's say in a meta where it's all viable.
Reckless has to play.
I think if he knows how to play it, I think it's better for them. Yeah, I don't see people playing as well AD carries as Reckless.
It's a scenario in which it's just as viable, right?
Yeah, everything is viable.
Yeah, I know, but it brings just more adaptation, I think, and I think. In general, if the meta is not so early game heavy, Reckless will also just be an insane carry as he was.
Does it scare you a bit that there could be a world in which all of this goes for Fnatic? We arrive in playoffs and you don't know if they're going to play Bwipo, if they're going to play Soaz, if they're going to play Reckless, if they're going to play AD, if they're going to play wacky things in the bottom lane. Does that change any of the dynamic?
Not really. Okay. I don't think it's that different, to be honest. I think if anything, the Bwipo Soaz thing has, right now at least, like more things they got going for them, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not really like having it back of my head thinking about it every night. Yeah,
I do think it's cool because we often ask for or wish that teams would use subs a bit more. Most of the times it's in case of illness, then of course you have someone of when someone can't play. But this is just showing a whole new side to flexibility, and there with metas changing, that could be very good, but we'll have to see.
Right, I think like the best case we've seen for like roster flexibility was Cloud9 over North America, and if Fnatic do get into a position where they
went
can,
like this though.
Yeah, sure, but they're at least trying it, right? And we've seen that there are merits behind it.
True.
I feel like, barring all those other issues, but I do think that if Fnatic could get in a position like that, it would be helpful. But I always feel like being able to adapt in draft is always going to be more powerful than adapt by moving players in and out. So if Reckless can play mages and marksman, that's better than a Reckless that plays marksman and a Bwipo that plays mages.
Yeah. In any case,
he will play.
He's probably going to play.
Definitely going to play.
Last one is Splice is the third best team in Europe. If you didn't see it, Splice beat Fnatic earlier in the day. So, guys.
I think it's a bit too early.
Safe one is to say no. However, based on 2 games they've played, they look pretty damn good. Based on the rest, no.
So that Team Liquid game and this game.
They stumped the best North American team, and they stumped what is considered currently the 3rd best European team completely. It's only 2 games, which is why we can't call them the 3rd best team, but they're definitely on the right track.
That's it. The opponents they played in the beginning, they just weren't good enough. They had to face the top of North America and the top of EU top 3 to win.
Yeah, they were preparing 5 weeks for this game today against Fnatic. So
They play Vitality tomorrow.
That is what I'm also getting at, because Vitality will be like, why? We're the third best
Oh, I
team.
mean,
if
Vitality
anything.
are very confident they will beat Splice.
Yeah.
Of course, as they always are. And now, if Splice gets a 2-0 week after returning from Rift Rivals with jet lag and everything, they will be on a 3-game winning streak, which could be very impressive games.
Vitality play Misfits.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was.
You're not Max Lord.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, whoever Splice plays, they're coming for them, man.
The momentum is rising.
That is rising. Yeah, we will see with Splice looking good. Now, I do want to continue. Now that we've kind of agreed on who deserves to be in the top spot, which is the teams that are already there. Let's talk about who could break their way into the playoffs, because we're pretty convinced that Misfits, Fnatic, G2, and Vitality are going to be in playoffs no matter what. Sencooks, do you agree with that at least?
I mean, no matter what, it's always hard after last split, but most challenge, yeah, definitely.
Most likely. So let's take a look at who is right under them and who could challenge for the top spots. We have Roccat, Schalke, the Unicorns of Love, and Splice for now are closest. I'm not ignoring the other teams. They're just a bit further down.
Far down, yeah.
Schalke today did come out with a win. I thought it was good that they won. Kai'Sa was extremely fed, Nuke Duck, but they still dropped the ball here and there. But a funnel comp is also not the easiest to execute. What do we make of that?
I'm not sold on Splice making the playoffs right now. I think my vote would be...
it was Schalke. I was talking about Schalke.
Schalke, right. I think a Splice plus Rocket would be my picks to go into playoffs. Yeah, that would be mine.
Now, we also looked at the players that could be instrumental to a run in playoffs.
We killed Vizicachi already.
This morning we had Vizicachi as the guy, but after the Duck's performance and the year of the Duck being reinstated, we had to go to him.
And while I agree with you, the funnel comps are not always easy. When you're 3-0 on Kai'Sa, it's supposed to be easy. So that obviously was an issue. He said it himself in the interview, but I like the fact they were like, listen, we don't care about the bot lane anymore. We don't need our jungler to make plays. We just need one of the soul laners, in this case Nuke Duck, who has been the best performing member on the team to carry it, and he did. So I still believe in Schalke. And I think the schedule they have the next few days or the next few games will be so much in their favor, because they will get a win over H2K as well. And that moves them even further towards it.
Sorry, I was just going to say that when I was watching the game today, I was like, all right, they're playing this funnel comp, they're trying something. That's the first time, but that's actually not true. They have tried many different things this split. They also put upset on Vladimir, and so they do show a willingness to try a couple of different things to try and catalyze their own performance, which I don't see in some of the other teams. For instance,
I think I mean, that's what I like right now, that like at least they figured out that something wasn't working and they're trying this funnel and it seems to work for them.
Yeah.
I think definitely they're improving. And I think in the start they were really lackluster, and I would probably not call them playoffs team yet, but I think now they are contenders for playoffs. But I think it's very close between the teams right now.
Definitely is.
Yeah, we had to put Splice up there with the last 2 games. Again, we've just put in this little tiny box of only 2 games.
Tiny bubble of Rift Rivals, and
they also went 2-0 in week 3, leading into Rift Rivals. So
it was a rough 2-0, but yes, that's true. They did.
Nobody remembers that. 2-0 is 2-0. Let's talk about the Unicorns of Love. Unfortunately for them, they can't play with Samux right now. Obviously, we wish them all the best, and they were playing with Neon today for that. However, when I looked at the game, it was a hard one to win regardless, it looked like. And you can't really blame it on the AD carry not being there. On the other hand, you got to play with someone new. The communication styles, or he just flew in, I believe, yesterday or today. So that's rough for them. And these are the kind of wins that they need. But if we take their performance as we've seen it so far and the wins that they did get, do you think the Unicorns of Love are a playoff contender again?
I think in terms, if I take away the stage games and remember my practice games against them, I think they are actually a pretty good team. And I don't know, I feel like something, every time I watch them on stage, is that like something is really going wrong for them. Like against us as well, it felt so easy because they were just giving us everything, but I don't feel like they usually do this in practice. And I don't know, I just kind of expect more for them. And that's also like on Euphoria, I was talking about it as well. I said that I think Exile and Cold is a really good duo, and I think Tutorial is really, like, those as a trio, I guess, is like making really good work around the mid lane. And yeah, I kind of expect more of them, to be honest, than what they're showing right now.
My problem with Unicorns is that meme with the guy who's on his bike and he puts the stick in the wheel and then he just falls over and he blames everything else, because they keep ruining it for themselves. Today, they draft a funnel comp. They invade level 1 take a horrible fight in there, lose 2 kills, fall behind in the final comp, and Memento gets like a giant advantage on Camille and then walks mid at level 6 and just kills them again. And I'm like, everything you just did there was completely unnecessary. And you highlighted, like, they give you stuff. They have good players. I don't trust in their calls. And today was actually a big thing for me where I keep always, if it's an individual mistake, one player, I'm like, okay, that's not the team. But this was the team. And that really hurt me.
I think the same thing happened last split, though, because I remember in the, what did they go, like 0-8 or something?
Yeah.
But I remember we didn't scrim them that much, but like before, I thought they were better practice than a lot of the other bottom teams that they were losing to. And it just feels like it's kind of the same right now. I don't feel like it's not the same unicorns that I see.
Yeah, that is a worrying trend. If it's the fact that you get on the Rift with a good plan that you know your players can execute, but then something fumbles, and like this is so heartbreaking. The fact that you say in the first 3 minutes of the game, they lose the game.
They ruined it, not even Rocket.
Even though they were equipped well for it. So hopefully they can patch that up tomorrow and the next couple of weeks. Finally, do want to touch on Rocket. Rocket has been so fun to watch, has been inspiring, has been exciting. And I say this because there are a couple of teams who are struggling at the bottom of the table, like Giants of H2K, who we are struggling to find something energetic with. They don't make anything per se happen, and they don't take their fate into their own hands. And I feel like Rocket is a team that has done that exactly, and Memento is the guy to do it.
Memento is hard smurfing in LCS right
He's a smurfer.
Yeah, like it's not even close. Like he just goes into games, trashes the enemy jungler, and puts the team on his back. Like I remember back to like week 2 or 3 with that Trundle jungle pick where he was 7-0. I'm like, what? How does that happen in LCS?
Does this come out of nowhere, or was he always that good?
He was really good last
I think he's been a good jungler for a while, but I think this split is even better than last split, if I remember. Even though last split he was obviously playing well as well.
From talking to him, he was always mechanically very good, and he wanted to be a carry jungler, but his decision-making in the past, like if we go back like a year or 2, was not great. So he would be the guy who, you know, jumps into the enemy jungle when his mid laner is pushed to his turret, and he's like fighting 1v2 in there, which doesn't work very often. He's not making the same mistakes. Like he's gotten a lot smarter, a lot more experience. He's still very young. He's the leader on the team, so he is the most important player. And if we took an MVP vote and we didn't talk about who's the best individual player, but who's actually the most valuable for his team, I think Memento's right up there.
Yeah, great.
I can agree with that.
Also, the rest of the team,
good statement.
You know, they've been doing good. Prophet had a great game once again. He's kind of flying under the radar. Blanc has been consistent for a very long time, so it's working out for them. Norse Karen as well. We have someone in our crew who loves Norse Karen.
Who did you forget there? Poor guy.
Well, I didn't forget him.
You went like, this guy's crazy.
He played
Vlad here and was popping up today.
He was insane today with the Vlad.
I actually think Prophet is the one.
Why are you trying to set me up?
I was just, you mentioned all the 4 names and I felt bad for you.
I was getting there.
I actually feel like Prophet sometimes is a liability. He makes some random roams, man. Like he's just randomly behind the enemy team.
Is this the kind of stuff that we say is random and is risky, but
no,
if it happens, it's just okay.
I feel like that's just random. I definitely agree with the other ones. Are playing more as a team. He's just an odd man out who's just doing his own thing, which he doesn't need to do.
Okay, you heard it, Prophet. You guys are almost the best team in Europe. You just need to stick with the team. Stick with the team.
Did you know that?
Fantastic stuff. Well, we'll see what happens in the standings tomorrow. Let's take a look at the schedule. No, these are the standings. That's my bad. No, so at 1 o'clock we have Misfits Gaming. At 2 o'clock, just kidding. Alrighty, Misfits Gaming is still undefeated at 7-0. Only 1 loss for G2 Esports, so it's good. And at the bottom of the table, we didn't talk about them too much, Giants and H2K. Yeah, they're going to have to start winning. H2K put out a statement today how they are not adapting to the meta, and that's no excuse, that every other team is doing it, and it's not an excuse, and they shouldn't be losing. So hopefully by tomorrow they've come up with a certain plan to go up in that game against the Unicorns of Love.
I think it takes a roster swap again, like last split, no?
That was the key last split. They swapped out 2 players.
Yeah.
It's rough, man, because, I mean, HK, they were down and out, and we said there's no way they can make playoffs last split, and then they turned it around. But again, it was a simpler time in terms of how you could play for team fights with Sheriff. You can't do that right now.
The game's over 20 minutes earlier.
And I think the next patch, from what I saw, does not change a lot about snowballing, so they should still be early game focused. That's another 2 weeks then of H2K being in a tough spot. And then playoffs is for sure gone if you go down 0-10 or something.
Here's the thing. They were 1-7 in Spring Split.
Yeah, there we go.
They're 0-7 right now, so tomorrow's game is the difference maker. If they can win it, maybe. If they lose, no.
Question taken from Euphoria. Would you rather start 7-0 but then go on a slump? Or would you rather start 0-7 and then start being a really good team and potentially getting back all the way through?
0-7 every time.
Really?
Everything, even though you will still make playoffs as a 0-7 team.
Well, do you make
you're not
playoffs
losing
in
Wait,
both
everything.
you're saying you will make playoffs as a 0-7, right?
I'm just saying you become a great team all of a sudden. I'm not guaranteeing anything.
I mean, if this 7-0 team becomes bad, then I'd rather be the 0-7, go into playoffs and have a better showing at playoffs.
If you feel like you can make playoffs,
I don't agree. You only need like 1 or 2 wins by the time.
I'll take
you're
the 7-0.
I also like last split we had that play out. Vitality was 7-1,
Right, and they
had
still
a very
made
similar
playoffs.
pace.
I mean,
yeah.
From being in a situation last split, we were not 7-0, but we were like quite high up the standings and it went really downhill really
Man
fast.
has a point. They didn't even make
They
playoffs.
did.
I would rather make playoffs and make sure
Yeah.
there's more League of Legends.
I'm taking the Vitality 7-0, going a bit of a slump. You still have enough weeks then to fix your slump.
I mean, if you get to fix it, then obviously it's...
I mean, don't have to bet all the time.
Hey,
if you're 0-7, you can't afford losing any games.
Seems like the
now.
rules are changing here, Deficio.
Yeah,
I just said slump.
I feel like
Good.
there's more adults.
Cool segment.
Right, would you
maybe
rather?
steal that for PGL.
Definitely
That's
didn't
cool.
ruin that one.
One quick prediction. Fnatic versus Roccat. Is this it? Can Roccat tomorrow, is this their time? Because Fnatic, jet lagged, all that stuff. Today, not a good game. Roccat is on fire, Sencooks. Do they beat Fnatic tomorrow?
Probably not.
No.
What are you
Hype is
putting?
dead.
40, 60?
If we take jet lag into account, we could give it a 40-60. But Memento... I mean, Memento has to smurf. And he usually smurfs, but he has to hard smurf.
If we take jet lag into account, we have to...
I'm
That was going to burn someone, but I'm not.
I'm picking Fnatic. I don't feel that great about it. Like I'm not.
I mean,
Then don't do it. Take
no,
a
I'm not
risk.
saying I feel great about Rocket either. Picking them. I'm
You just don't
like,
feel good either way.
I'm scared. Like I feel like so
Why are you scared? Are you biased towards Fnatic?
because it's
because I need to win the prediction game.
Oh.
And I almost had 5 out of 5 today, but then Splice ruined everything. Unicorns. Next one is really difficult as well with how Splice are playing now. Damn, tomorrow's hard.
TLDR, super exciting day of games tomorrow. You gotta watch. But before you do, we have NALCS Academy about to start with FlyQuest versus Optic Gaming. And then if you missed any of our games today, there will be a rebroadcast after NALCS Academy. And by then, you can take a quick nap, then have some croissants, and then turn on your computer and watch EULCS
Why
tomorrow. Croissants or
they're tasty.
baguettes, cereal.
Oatmeal.
Whatever you want.
Hey, you don't have to eat that.
And
Like
tweet us what you are having for breakfast. And that was all from us here in Berlin. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more EULCS action. Have a good night. Tschüssi.
do you have to say it says thank you.
Match, Caboshark find himself 3-manned under tower. Let's see if they can take him out. Oh, good bop in the barrel. Is going to knock Promiscu back in, but he swallows up Shook for just a second. Caboshark still takes one down with them. Are you kidding me? That is going to be it. 26.5 minutes. They were bleeding. They were bruised.
Now it's up to Nuke to get another win on the board here.
Now, and we have seen some questionable performances out of him. Nuke, nothing questionable about this play. Easy peasy pick up, steal back if you... And it looks like Nuke is trying to nuke them all down, staying alive. Okay. But Giants finding the fight and steal back. Can't quite get the shutdown, but he does before falling for the triple kill. And who knows, maybe after this game, it really is the year of the Duck.
Some of the damage here. Memento's around.
Ready for shot wall dive. The stun does connect immediately. Hextech ultimatum. Exile trying to make his way out, but doesn't have an option yet. That's the power of the Vlad. Goes golden for a brief moment. Exile, can he make it to safety? The flash out. Tries to buy a bit of time. Exile not able to get anything more. Memento is there, but in the end, it is Roccat who close it out. It is Roccat who play with their food, and Roccat who find the win.
Nice. Try to leave. Run. Every man from south. Get out. Out.
I'm dead, leave me.
But Mickey X is on the backside, immediate ulti, right in the middle of everybody. Lambs for spite, but just call it a brief break because it's not going to do much else. Hansama taking down Yanko. Sencooks there for the cleanup. Misfits, sights set on 7-0, looking for the 9-0 on the first rotation of the split, and they're well on the way as they take down G2.